Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Okay. And Doug, I see your Christmas tree.
At this point, Doug's just early for next year.
Liz, Manny got in under the guest. Can you move him over to a panelist, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joe, you shaved.
Yes.
Recognize you.
Manny should be a panelist now. I
Yep,
just
I could see him.
okay.
Manny, you're on mute.
Council President Jackson, can you just tell me when you want me to start recording, and I'll go from there. I'm ready to do it whenever.
1 more minute.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Manning, if you unmute yourself, we can hear you if you talk.
There you go.
Okay. So it's 6:30. The only council person there we go. Okay. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 6:30 p.m. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, to the republic one stands,
one
under
nation,
God,
liberty
and justice for all.
Liberty, justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember the service and sacrifices of the armed service members who protect our nation and the first responders who protect our neighborhoods.
Mr. Jackson, if I could add somebody, please.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to share the news that Donna Jean Trezuzzi, Ronnie Trezuzzi's wife, had passed away from her battle with cancer on January 21st of 2021. Mr. Trezuzzi was very involved with Ronnie, with the Lions Club, also many hours of donation that she would do with the Company 5 Firehouse in White Meadow Lake. She was very active. She was also an educator as well in teaching. She had a passion for the students. I had spoke to Ronnie the day that she had passed. He was very thankful for everything, and she had a wonderful life, and she gave a lot to our community. So I just wanted to make a mention of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Council President or Council Member Kelly.
Present.
Council Member Quinn.
Here.
Council Member Friedlander.
Here.
Council Member Kritz.
Here.
Council Member Selberg. Council Member Brooks.
Here.
Council Member Noon.
Here.
Council Vice President Sackett.
Here.
Council President Jackson.
Here. Please be advised that all electronic remote meetings of the Township Council held on WebEx are recorded. All members of the public will be provided with the opportunity to speak. During any public hearing or open to the public sections of the meeting, the Township Clerk will mute each member of the public and ask if they wish to speak. As per Rockaway Township Code 2-5.14, any person desiring to address the council shall first seek recognition by the presiding officer, and upon recognition by the chair, the person shall give their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the council, they shall limit their statement to 5 minutes. Statements shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. A councilman shall not direct any question to a speaker addressing the council except through the presiding officer. In addition to speaking on the record during the council meeting, members of the public may submit questions and comments to the council by emailing questions@rock.
Did we just lose Joe?
Looks like he froze up.
My, Mr.
Now
Kelly
you're
is.
good.
Okay.
I'm not freezing up. I'm here.
On October 29th, 2020, notice was posted on the official bulletin boards of Rockaway Township. First on the agenda is approval of the January 5th, 2021 reorganization meeting minutes. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Council President, I have a question on that.
Well, we're making a motion. Does anybody want a second?
So moved, yeah.
Mr. Quinn made the motion. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I'll allow 5 minutes of discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
On the January 5th that we had the reorg, there was the minutes that were up for voting for approval on the 5th of January. And I had asked the clerk if she had any assistance in creating those minutes. And Ms. Peterson had indicated that she couldn't answer my question, and I had asked her why, and she said that the mayor had directed her not to speak to me. I don't see that in the minutes.
That didn't happen. Any other questions that are actually relevant?
Well, I do. Mrs. Peterson, is there a reason why you didn't include that in the minutes?
It's
I'm
not a
asking,
question that's
Council
valid.
President, I'm just asking the clerk a
She
question.
doesn't have to.
Yes, she does.
put
She's the
verbatim
clerk to the
everything.
council, not to you.
She doesn't have, I know that, Mr.
She
Kelly.
does.
She doesn't have to put verbatim. If you understand how minutes.
I understand that, but she didn't even mention the question that I asked or the comments like she does on all the other matters, and including yourself or the mayor. So, Mrs. Peterson, is there a reason why you didn't include that?
Council, I'd be happy to answer this question. Shall
Go
I
ahead.
go ahead? Okay, as Council President Jackson just stated, minutes are not verbatim. Frankly, I prepared these probably over 2 weeks ago, and I don't recall that I had left that particular statement out. And I sent these out for review by the council several days ago, and I do accept, comments. And so if that was something that you wanted added, I could have done that before they needed to come on tonight's agenda to get voted on, so that then the public can read through them. So
You can also add them afterwards, though.
But I did try to get them out so that you could have made comments earlier.
Well, you can also add it at any time as well, correct? It doesn't have to be beforehand. And if you indicated to me that you're not going to answer any of my questions, why would you answer that question then?
Mr. Yachafano, do you have any legal opinion on this? You're muted. You're
I mean,
muted.
you amended the minutes from January.
I do, Council President. Thank you for recognizing me. First of all, we have here a question within a question within a question. The first thing to be determined is that the motion is predicated on an allegation by Mr. Kelly of what Mr. Kelly claims he said at the prior meeting. Okay? Now, I would suggest to you that there's no point discussing something that has not been confirmed, and that could only be confirmed by an examination by the deputy clerk of the recording of the prior meeting. Okay? So we have that issue to determine first, and I suggest there could be no action on the by the council tonight unless and until the clerk confirms what Mr. Kelly said or what Mr. Kelly failed to say. The second issue is now this question based upon the motion to approve the minutes has now morphed into an interrogation of the clerk. which is
Yep.
totally and completely inappropriate.
There's no interrogation.
Yep.
They're your words, Mr. Yachafano,
Okay,
not mine.
let's move forward. That's enough discussion.
We can table the
Clerk,
minutes then. I make a motion,
take the roll call.
Mr. Council President. I make a motion.
There's already a motion.
You can have another motion on the floor for that motion, Mr. Quinn.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kelly, make your motion.
I just make a motion to table the minutes until the clerk reviews the
Anybody
minutes
wanna
that she had
second the motion?
prepared.
Anybody want to second the
You
motion?
just heard the council, our legal counsel just indicated that.
Nobody seconding your motion. Clerk, take the roll call on the first motion of the minutes.
Councilmember Kelly,
I have another motion, Mr. Jackson.
And it wasn't seconded, Mr. Kelly.
I have another motion,
Are you
Mr.
voting? No, we're taking a roll call on this vote.
There's a motion and a motion, Mr. Jackson. You know that.
Mr. Kelly, stop corrupting the meeting. Why
I'm
are you doing
not.
this?
I'm not.
Why are you
Council
doing
All this
Why do you
because
have to
because there was an omission of the minutes that
You have to-
nobody's going to actually admit that there
Why
was.
do you have to hurt the township at everything you do?
I'm not hurting the township. It's actually you. If you just put in what the minutes
Can we
were.
take the roll call, Mr. Yachafano?
You should proceed with the roll call, Council
Okay,
President.
clerk, take the roll call. If he doesn't answer you, just move on.
Councilmember Kelly,
No. The minutes are not accurate and don't reflect what was said.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes. That's 10 minutes of our time. That's 8 yeses, 1 no. Motion carries, minutes are adopted. Next is ordinances to adopt. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I have a motion, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead, make your motion, Mr. Kelly.
I make a motion to include the omitted statement from the clerk from the January 5th, 2021 meeting referencing the mayor telling her not to speak to me
Just keep,
and not answering the
Okay,
question I
anybody
had
else?
about the minutes.
anybody want to second the motion? There's no second.
That's okay. It's part of the record.
Second, yeah, on the record, right. All statements. Ordinances to adopt O-21-01, an ordinance amending Chapter 6 entitled Alcoholic Beverage Control of the General Ordinances of the Township of Rockaway. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it.
I think Howard, did you second it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Howard, Mr. Kritz is.
Howard did? Okay.
Okay, clerk, can you go through and do the public, members of the public?
Yes. Christine Connolly, do you have any comments? Christine Connolly. Okay, I'm going to the next person. Jim Waters,
Not on this particular ordinance, thank you.
thank you. Lisa Selberg,
So it's gonna, it'll be nice, set up
Lisa
downstairs.
Selberg,
Goal is to get that ready to go, so we'll see, what happens.
Matthew Olson. Matthew Olson. Patricia Degnan,
No comment.
thank you. Patrick Egan,
No comment, thank you.
thank you. Ron Sealand,
No comment.
thank you. That's everyone.
Okay, I'll allow 5 minutes of council discussion. Anybody have discussion items for this topic? Okay, clerk, you could take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Abstain.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett.
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 8 yeses, 1 abstention. Ordinance is adopted. Next is number 8. We're going to be going into closed session. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We're going to be going into closed session until 7 o'clock. So that'll be the next 20 minutes. We'll be in closed session. So the closed session is officially starting at 6:43.
Do I need to do a roll call for the,
Yeah. So take the roll
You need to
call.
read, Council
You can
President.
say how long it is for the open minutes.
You need to, thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Not
We need to
recognized,
read the
Mr. Kelly.
closed
Thank you for
session
interrupting again.
resolution.
Yeah, clerk, do you have that?
I do.
Yeah, can you take read that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Should I? Okay, I'm going to read it. Who seconded that? May I ask? I
It was
have
Jonathan. I think it was Jonathan.
Yes.
Council
Thank you.
President, Council
Thank you very
President,
much.
Yes, Mr. Achpano.
I suggest that you remove it after the closed session resolution is read.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, clerk.
A resolution, I'm reading the full resolution.
That's correct.
Resolution R-21-27, resolution authorizing an executive closed session in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-6 et sec. For Morris County Council 6 negotiations. Whereas the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act generally requires that meetings be open to the public, and whereas the Open Public Meetings Act further provides that a public body may exclude the public from a portion of the meeting at which the public body discusses items enumerated in the Open Public Meeting Act at NJSA 10-4-12B, which items are recognized as requiring confidentiality. And whereas it is necessary and appropriate for the Rockaway Township Council to discuss certain matters in a meeting not open to the public, consistent with NJSA 10:4-12B. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway, Morris County, New Jersey, as follows. 1, the Rockaway Township Council shall immediately hold an executive session from which the public shall be excluded. 2, the general nature of the subjects discussed at said executive session shall be as follows. Morris County Council 6 negotiations. 3, the minutes of the executive session shall be made available for disclosure to the public consistent with NJSA 10:4-13 when the items which are the subject of the closed session discussion are resolved and the reason for confidentiality no longer exists, which at present is anticipated to be approximately 30 days or to the next scheduled council meeting. In the event that reasons for confidentiality exist beyond such time, the public will be advised appropriately. 4, it is anticipated that the council will be in closed session on the stated matters for 20 minutes. In the event that the closed session must extend beyond 20 minutes, the council will recess the closed session and the public will be advised of the estimated time required to complete the closed session or whether the closed session is continued at a subsequent council meeting. 5, following the closed session, the council may take action on the matter which is the subject of the closed session. It is hereby certified that this is a true copy of a resolution adopted by the Township Council of the Township of Rockaway on January 26, 2021.
Okay, could I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, so I would Mr. Quinn, Mr. Friedlander. Clerk, you could take the roll call?
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Salberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett, Council Vice President, yeah, that's a yes. I read your lips.
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. So it is 6:47. We
Do we have contact information to get into closed session?
Yes, it was sent by email on Tuesday.
Have to dial it on our phone.
It's a telephone number and an access code that was sent, and it was also sent, the reminder was sent with the agenda and the packet on Friday.
Yep.
It
So
should-
Your email on Tuesday, Councilmember.
It should have came from VA free conference call.
So make sure you stop your video and mute yourself, and then we can dial into.
Okay.
I have Roundup, Executive Director, Vaccine Update, LM Daily Update.
Councilmember Kelly, I'm going to resend an email to you right now. Let me pull it up.
Did you find it?
I hit send. Liz Peterson is on.
Okay. Yeah, this is from something different, Mrs. Peterson.
Mr. Kelly, can you take your video off, please?
All right, members of the public, we're all coming back in, as promised, 7:05, we're back in the meeting. just wait a couple minutes to make sure everybody gets back in. Who am I not seeing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we're all here.
Liz isn't on yet.
Yeah,
Just
I was
hang
just
on.
gonna say, that's the only person I'm waiting on is Liz. Okay, Liz.
Council President,
Yes.
you're going to need to make a motion
Yeah.
to come out of closed
Yep.
session.
Yep. Can we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Kelly seconded.
Mr. Jackson, I have a quick question for Mr. Yatrafano before we proceed with the resolution that we have on here.
Wait, I need to take the roll call.
You're not recognized. Take the roll call.
This is coming out of closed session.
Correct.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Sailberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, we're officially out of closed session. Next agenda item is R21-34, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a memorandum of agreement between the Township of Rockaway and Morris County 6 NJCSA white collar, blue collar supervisors and superintendents regarding the collective bargaining agreements.
Mr. Jackson?
Can we have a motion?
Mr.
So
Mr.
moved.
Jack-
Who was that, Jack?
No.
Second?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Who's the second?
Jack made the motion.
Okay, Jack and Jonathan. Okay.
Mr. Jackson, I just for legal purposes with the resolution of it being amended into this agenda, do we have to take any action on that first?
Mr. Yatrafano, do we have to take action on that?
I mean, the resolution came in today.
You're muted, Mr. Yatrafano.
It was added on Friday.
It was
Council
added
President.
Added
yesterday.
if the resolution wasn't created and given to us until today.
No,
Council-
yesterday.
Council President,
Yes.
if the resolution was noticed on the agenda prior to the meeting, there's no reason to make a motion to now amend the agenda because in fact, the agenda would not require amendment.
Okay. Clerk, you can
Thank
take
you.
the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander,
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz,
Yes.
Councilmember Sailberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Noon,
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, it's 9 yeses. Motion carries.
Council President,
Yes.
by way of further clarification, I would add that the reason for my opinion in response to Councilman Kelly's question is that the resolution was noticed on an agenda published prior to the meeting and given, among other things, to all members of the council. Certainly, any member of the council who wanted to see a copy of the resolution at the time it was noted on the agenda could have called the administration or the clerk's office and asked for a copy.
Wasn't
Thank you.
provided until the other day,
You're
so
not recognized.
you're absolutely wrong about that, Mr. Yatrafano.
You're out of order again, Mr.
You can't ask for something that
You're
wasn't
out of
created
order,
until
Mr.
then.
Kelly. Mr.
Thank
Kelly,
you.
You're out of order.
Thank you,
Again,
Mr. Jackson.
Again. talking
Thank
out
you,
of
Mr.
order.
Jackson.
Thanks for your childish behavior. Next is open to the public. Clerk, if you can go through the people in the public.
Okay, hold on.
Yep. Mr. Yatrafano, make sure you mute yourself.
Al Cerullo, you're unmuted.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Thank you. Christine Connolly. Christine Connolly. Jim Waters.
I'm sorry.
Jim Waters, you're unmuted.
Thank you. This is Jim Waters, 48 Seneca Avenue in the township. First of all, I would like to commend the council for their formal dress tonight. You guys and gals all look very spiffy there. I wish I'd gotten the memo on the tuxedo myself. Wondering if the public opened the public session shouldn't have been after the adoption or consideration of Resolution 2128. When I first looked it over, I said, well, how could anybody be opposed to a resolution which condemned the truly disgraceful behavior that we saw in our nation's capital on January 6th. And then the more that I looked at it, the more I had some individual things I'd like to comment on just looking at it. First, as we all know, we're not a pure democracy in the U.S. We're a democratic republic where democracies prevail within any one state. But we are also a republic comprised of currently 50 states. So I'd like that to be noted in the future that we're a democratic republic, not a pure democracy. I would like to comment on the statement that this was an unprecedented siege of our United States Capitol building, the People's Building in the Capitol, in that ignoring the times that the British have burned D.C. to the ground. Those of you who are old enough will recall that in the early 50s, a number of Puerto Rican terrorists broke into the Capitol building with semi-automatic weapons and shot and nearly killed a number of Congress people. So this tragic event was not unprecedented. In fact, if I were being facetious, I might almost call it a mostly peaceful protest, and that about 200 people broke into the people's house out of 100,000 people who were peacefully protesting in Washington, D.C. on that day. 5 people did die in the violence, obviously, including the tragic death of our New Jersey native, Brian Sicknick, and one poor woman from the West Coast who was shot and killed by either a Capitol policeman or Secret Service when she broke into the building. The other deaths were some type of medical emergencies. So I'm not really sure that if we're going to note medical emergencies that occurred in Washington, D.C. on that date, I'm sure there were hundreds of deaths that took place on that particular date. Yeah, dissatisfaction with the outcome of a national election. I think if we're going to have a resolution of this kind justifiably condemning the behavior on January 6th, we need to make some kind of comment and perhaps have a resolution condemning the incessant attempt to overturn the results of the 2016 election and 4.5 years of Russia collusion by our elected officials and non-elected officials, including the ongoing unconstitutional attempt to impeach a private citizen. I think this is a pretty one-sided take on this whole thing. I could, as you know, go on and on this over this. I'd like to note that I'm not supporting what happened. I would never support that, but it is my consideration that this is one-sided condemnation after 48 months of witnessing an attempt to unlawfully overthrow a legally elected government in the United States. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Lisa Selberg.
On just Lisa Selberg, 10 Bergen Hill, a comment to send your prayers and everybody in the team. And to just recognize all that Doug has contributed to the community.
Hey, Lisa, you cut out for like 10 seconds to me.
Oh,
anyway.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to send our love and support to the Abe family with the recent loss of Doug's wife, and just to acknowledge how much Doug does for our community. And now he's in a position where he could use some support. Just want to put it out there so everybody can rally around our friend. That's all.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. It's Facebook and you get feeds, you watch videos, and I can't tell you how many videos up on Facebook of youth sporting events or high school sporting events that Doug has filmed. So yeah, my heart goes out to him. He's great family. So terrible loss. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Matthew Olson. Matthew Olson. Patricia Degnan.
Patricia Degnan, 88 Valley View Drive, Rockaway, New Jersey. Mr. Walters said it quite well regarding the resolution 2128. I would like to see us as a community condemn all acts of violence, not just one act. We've had a very, very bad year with violence in 2020. And to single out one act of violence, which it was, and I don't condone it, is really something that we should handle in a judicious way where we condemn both sides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick Egan.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you. Ron Cleland.
I have no public comment.
Thank you. William Degnan.
I don't want to comment on the resolution. William Degnan, 88 Valley View Drive. I do need to bring up something to the council's attention about the construction across from Valley View Drive. The explosives seem to be getting larger and larger and larger, large enough to shake a house more than once a day in the new development that they are building.
Okay.
At 7:30, 9:30, and 11 o'clock. At one point at 11 o'clock this morning, 88 Valley View Drive shook from the explosion. So they are using more and more powerful explosives. And with all the residents and the young kids trying to get to study virtually classes, how can they do that when buildings are shaking when they're trying to study in class?
Okay. Ms. Seeger, perhaps that's something you could have Ms. Ferrante look into. Do you have any other comments?
I just believe what happened on the 6th was a terrible, terrible tragedy. And I believe the political violence needs to end. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back in the list. I see at least one new person. Hold, let me just make sure. Yeah, Lily Sweet. I'm taking you off of mute. Lily Sweet.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
No comment yet.
Thank you. That's everybody, Council President Jackson.
Okay. Mrs. Seeger, did we get any emails?
Yes, we did. I have two emails from Mr. Riddick. The first one said something, but he revised it. So he sent another one, and I will read his email. It's not my words. It's Mr. Riddick's words. He revised from prior email, 2 issues for open to the public, January 26th, Board of Assessment Commissioners in action, and Vehicle Review Committee appointments. Apologies for prior email, that's fine. So his comment on the Board of Assessment Commissioners. Over 4 years ago, at the October 25th, 2016 council meeting, the following is a quote from Mr. Achafano in the meeting minutes. He thanked Mr. Sheard, Mrs. Babcock, Mr. Lutz for their help with Boveyville sewer assessment. The list has been finalized. The tax assessor is getting an appraisal to provide the value of the property. Here it is more than 4 years later, and there's still no action on Boveyville problem. His question is, when will the board assessment commissioners be meeting again? Then he goes on to say, it has been more than a year since their last meeting. I had a great chat with the late Mark Burak about a month prior to his passing, and he said he's been ready to attack the Boveyville issue for a long time. Question number 2. As this board is dormant, are the commissioners still receiving their stipends? Question number 3. Since the council appointed the commissioners, when will the council hold the commissioners and Mr. Achafano accountable for his lack of action? Issue number 2. Item 16B from tonight's agenda, Vehicle Review Committee. Comment. It is well known that Councilman Tucker Kelly has more vehicle purchase and repair knowledge than the 3 council members being appointed combined. This is just further proof that Council President Jackson would rather punish Councilman Kelly than put an eminently qualified member on this committee. In the end, it is the same old story in Rockaway. Hire friends, relatives, and the administration like an employment agency and use vindictiveness and pettiness to punish those who don't toe the company line. Brian Whittick, 18 North Lake Shore Drive.
Okay,
If Council President, if you want, I can send him a response tomorrow.
that'd be great. Can you check the email again one more time?
Yes, there's nobody else, sir.
Okay. And there's nobody else on the line, right, Liz?
I'm triple checking. There's nobody else.
Okay. Next is 11R21-28, resolution condemning January 6th siege in Washington, D.C. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Sackett, Mr. Kritz.
Roll call.
Any discussion? Anybody want discussion?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, I was muted. I do. If anybody has discussion before me, though, please feel free to go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Waters had made some comments on the resolution R2128, and I was wondering, well, a couple of things. Who actually created this resolution, Mr. Jackson? Was it somebody's idea that?
It was submitted by Vice President Sackett.
Okay. And none of us had any idea or any input with that from what Mr. Sackett had submitted, and I'm assuming that the town attorneys helped draft this, or was this a draft from Mr. Sackett?
I believe it's a draft from Mr. Sackett.
My other thing was
The town attorneys helped me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sackett.
The town attorneys helped me.
I'm one more time. I'm sorry.
The town attorneys helped me.
Okay. Was there a reason why we didn't put all of the other riots and protests that took place throughout 2020 that came up to the issue that happened on Capitol Hill as well? Like the Seattle riots, Chicago, Minnesota. I mean, there was a couple of really high-profile acts that took place that we never made mention of, or you never made mention of until this issue that took place. And I hope that your point of this wasn't directed because of a party or an outgoing and incoming president and stuff like that. And I was just wondering what your thought process was and why we didn't include other areas of riots and stuff. It almost makes it look like we're not recognizing them and we're only focusing on this one, which I think is kind of concerning.
Mr. Kelly, you could have had any resolutions done throughout the year at any time. Okay, so you didn't. Okay, this is what I worked on.
I only asked you a question. I wouldn't have done something like this, to be quite honest with you. I would have included.
This is the one I worked on. You're able to work on anything prior. You didn't come up with anything the whole year. You had plenty of opportunities.
Oh, I do. I just doesn't get on there.
You didn't.
Is there, Mr. Sackett, nobody's attacking you. I'm just asking you a simple question.
I'm saying you could have done it.
Is there, if I can answer, if you could just let me finish so you can answer correctly, rather than just focus on a party of what's going on. Maybe we can redraft this and then submit it to where we have, like the two other members of the public too. Maybe we can draft this to include everything rather than just one because you may not like the particular president or you like the incoming president.
Nothing to do with that.
Would you be willing to maybe table it so we can draft it?
Correct, as usual, making up stories.
I'm not making up stories, Mr. Sackett. I'm sorry that you're embarrassed and you can't answer the question.
You don't like the outgoing president. I did nothing to do with that at all. You are incorrect. As usual.
Mr. Sackett, I only asked you maybe, Mr. Sackett, Mr. Sackett, you're interrupting
I'm not
me.
changing this resolution. You're
Okay,
welcome.
I thought maybe we would,
Mr. Kelly, would you like to make a motion to amend it?
I thought that we could just amend it to include all acts of riots and maybe, like not sieges, because there wasn't multiple sieges, but I mean, you were quiet about Portland and quiet about Chicago. Can we just conclude all of them rather than what took place on the 6th?
End it like Mr. Jackson just said.
Well, would you be interested in doing that? Would there be a willingness on you?
You're welcome to amend it.
I think, maybe we can table it and all give some input. I think Mr. Waters had some points about it. There has been other siege, things like that. I mean, maybe we should look at it a little closer. I don't know.
I agree.
I'm amicable to tabling it and amending it and then putting it back on.
I'll make a motion to table it, Mr. Jackson.
I'll second it.
Withdraw the motion. And then we'll table it.
Council President?
Yeah.
Okay, we can't have a pending motion and a motion to table something. Okay, so there are two solutions. Council Vice President Sackett could voluntarily withdraw the motion, which would remove it from consideration, or a motion to table it, which would take precedence over a vote on the resolution itself, could be made and seconded. Those are your options.
So, Mr. Sackett, would you be willing to withdraw it so we could table it?
For next meeting?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. So,
Thank you, Mr. Sackett.
Thank you. Do we have to vote on tabling it, Mr. Yachafano?
If there's been a voluntary withdrawal of it,
No.
who made the motion to approve it?
Mr. Sackett did.
Okay, I would consider that sufficient.
Okay. Next is thank you, Mr. Sackett. Next is number 12, ordinances to introduce O-21-02. An ordinance amending chapter 25 entitled Stormwater Control of the General Ordinance of the Township of Rockaway. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, you can take the roll call. It was Mr. Quinn and Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
He said yes.
Thank
I said
you.
yeah.
Councilmember Kritz. Councilmember Kritz. Yes. Okay. Councilmember Salberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Noon.
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett.
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. R-21-29, R-21-30, R-21-31, R-21-32, R-21-33. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Quinn and Mr. Friedlander. Clerk, you can take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz. Councilmember Salberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Noon.
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett.
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Next is 14, mayor's appointments with consent of council, Citizens Rec Committee, John Lombardo. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I would second it.
I think, Adam, did you second it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Jackson, could you read Mr. Lombardo's resume? It's a great resume.
I don't have it in front of me. I know Mr. Lombardo and I know what activities he's done. I know him kind of personally in a way, so I don't have it in front of me. If you want to read it, you can, I guess.
I will. Again, I don't know Mr. Lombardo. I'm just reading what he has here. Just give me 1 second. I'm having a little difficult time pulling it up here. I know that he's got 10 years with coaching, wants to get involved to add some more positive input and knowledge to the committee. He is local, is over in the Fleetwood area. I'm just trying to go through it right now. If somebody else has it open. But it seems like he would be a great fit for the committee. That it's great that the vacancies keep filling up over there.
He will round out the entire committee.
Awesome. Clerk, you could take the roll call.
Council President?
Yeah.
Can I speak for 2 seconds?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I've been trying to do something a little bit different with the Citizens Recreation Committee. What I've been trying to do is put people on, and I appreciate everybody here who's on the council who's been, supportive of that. I've been trying to put people on from different disciplines and mix it up a little bit. Mr. Lombardo has been active with, and his wife as well, with the Challenger League. We didn't have representation in that area on the Citizens Rec Committee. So it was a great fit putting John on. His wife works in depth with the Challenger League. So I'm trying to get people put in. So there's a little bit of representation from multiple areas, and we have a variety of skills that we can pull from, especially with the Peterson improvements going on, and that's going to be redone, hopefully sooner than later. So that's kind of my thought process when I've been appointing people to the committees, for just trying to get a variety and a little bit of diversity in there as far as their backgrounds. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Clerk, you could take the roll call.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember Friedlander.
Yes.
Councilmember Kritz.
Yes.
Councilmember Selberg. Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Noon.
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett.
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 9 yeses. Congratulations, Mr. Lombardo. Next are council appointments. We have an open appointment for the Community Development Revenue Sharing Committee. It's a 1-year term ending 12/31/2021. It's a regular member. I'd like to nominate Howard Kritz.
I'll second the nomination.
Any other nominations? I'd like to make a motion to close the nominations.
Second.
Clerk, you could take the roll call.
Okay, is this roll call for approving your nominee?
Yes.
Okay. And hold on, you nominated Howard Kritz?
Correct.
And I've got, okay,
Quinn.
close that. Yep, I'm set. Okay, Council Member Kelly.
You're muted.
Roll call?
Abstain. Is there a reason why the clerk can't unmute us when we do roll call?
No, she's writing things down. Go ahead, Miss Peterson.
Council Member Quinn.
Yes.
Council Member Friedlander.
Yes.
Council Member Kritz.
Yes.
Council Member Selberg.
Yes.
Council Member Brooks.
Yes.
Council Member Noon.
Yes.
Council Vice President Sackett,
Yes.
Council President Jackson.
Yes, that's 8 yeses, 1 abstention. Congratulations, Mr. Kritz. Next are council president appointments. So right now we have council liaisons, 1-year term ending 12/31/2021. Board of Ed Regional will be Mary Noon. Board of Ed Local will be Mary Noon. Citizens Rec Committee, Jonathan Sackett, Jack Quinn alternate. Freeholders, Adam Salberg, Doug Brooks alternate. Library Board of Trustees, Emmanuel Friedlander, Tucker Kelly alternate. Historical Society, Emmanuel Friedlander. Municipal Alliance, Emmanuel Friedlander. Morris County Council on Older Persons, Howard Kritz and Mary Noon. Senior Citizens, Adam Salberg, Howard Kritz, and Jack Quinn. Board of Assessment Commissioners, Emmanuel Friedlander. Council committees, 1-year term ending 12/31/2021. Local Emergency Council, Adam Salberg, Doug Brooks, and Howard Kritz. Ordinance Committee, Jack Quinn, Chair, Emmanuel Friedlander, and Howard Kritz. Vehicle Review Committee, Jack Quinn, Chair, Douglas Brooks, and Mary Noon. Next is old business. Does anybody have any old business? We'll have 5 minutes for each person for old business.
Council President, I do have some old business, but again, if somebody else wishes to go forward first.
Go ahead, Mr. Kelly.
At the last meeting, I had under new business, talking about the DNG Farms with Mr. Monte. And again, the question I was asking, even though it was somewhat, Mr. Yachafano took his own opinion of what I was trying to ask. I was just asking the steps that an individual would have to present to the township an event to show hardship, or maybe trying to resolve maybe in an inadvertent error that took place when it comes to billing. I know that there was some conversation amongst Mr. Monte, who was the owner of that property, with some other council members, the mayor, I know even the administration. And then recently, Mr. Jackson, we got an email from you, I believe, back in January, not to communicate with Mr. Monte. We were going to have something on closed session. I didn't see anything here on closed session regarding that. And again, maybe assisting the individual moving forward, of giving him a direction of what he needs to do, if there's anything that can be done with regard to his issue that he has on that property and the concern of tax payments and moving forward. Have we come to any conclusions? Because I haven't seen anything other than you telling us it was going to be on the next meeting agenda for closed session, which it wasn't.
Sure, Mr. Yachafano, can you respond? You're muted.
Yes, Council President. The situation involving tax relief for any taxpayer, any property taxpayer, is a matter for the administration. The administration has evaluated the matter, and the taxpayer who expressed some concern, apparently through Mr. Kelly, will be receiving a letter advising him appropriately. That's all that is necessary to say at this time. Again, the issue is not ripe for the council's consideration at this time.
Mr. Yachafano, thank you for that. But my question was not just for Mr. Monte. What would any resident or property owner, taxpayer, is there a provision, like we have a sewer billing, that there could be an excuse for an individual? And I believe we've done that already in the past with that one resident over on Garrison in Bowlbyville by Mr. Quinn. Is there a provision that allows some type of adjustment through taxes for anybody that would, create a hardship, or there was a billing error, whether it was over or under? I mean, we just had a bunch of tax information that we passed in the consent agenda for refunds. I mean, if there's an overbilling or not providing the information as to the accuracy of the billing and then catching it later, months later, what relief, if any, can a resident or taxpayer see unless there's a provision in a statute or in our code that doesn't allow that, but allows it for other areas. Again, water billing, sewer billing. So is there any kind of relief in a statute or in our code when it concerns property tax and judgments and liens?
Well, Mr. Kelly, you've asked, as usual, you've asked several questions, couched as one question.
I'm sorry that you've never done that before.
I don't usually do it, but you do it often. In any event, as to past due taxes and interest, there is, under the statutes, no forbearance allowed for unpaid taxes and interest. They must be paid dollar for dollar. Errors are always administratively addressed and are addressed by the appropriate mechanism, refund resolutions, etc. That's the protocol. Taxpayers, any taxpayer having any tax questions or seeking relief can always go to the tax collector and or the administration directly. Again, I emphasize that it remains an exclusive task of the administration to deal with these, generally initiated through the office of the tax collector.
Well, my concern, though, is, Mr. Yachafano, is that this has been going on for a very long period of time. Again, I believe that the mayor had conversations in the
Mr.
past
Kelly,
months.
I've told you once, I'm not going to discuss the
You don't have to.
individual
You don't have
details
to. Listen,
of
Mr.
Mr.
Yachafano,
Monte's case in open session. You just
understand that. We're not
proceeded to
dealing with
do
anything
that.
contractual. I just want to
Mr.
know.
Kelly, your statements are
Yachafano,
talking
please.
about an individual relationship with its tax payments and the township. It is inappropriate to discuss that in closed session an open session, excuse me, at this time. That's all I'm
Mr.
going to.
Yachafano, my concern is that the longer that we delay on getting responses back, whether it's Mr. Monte or any individual that may have these circumstances, whether it's water, sewer, or taxes, it further puts them in a financial situation and puts a burden on them that sometimes they can't climb out of that burden. So I don't understand why it takes so long to address something very simple, whether there's a statute that supports it, supporting information to assist the individual, the resident. I mean, I look at somebody here that's doing a cleanup, an environmental cleanup, bettering the property, doing everything that he possibly can. And
Council
in relation
President,
to the request
Mr.
of the
Kelly is
township,
prejudicing
excuse
the
me, Mr.
position
Yachafano,
of
I'm
the
still
township.
talking.
I suggest he be foreclosed.
Okay.
Why would you foreclose on? Why would you make a comment on a taxpayer like that, Mr. Yachafano?
Foreclosed as in you stop speaking,
Stop
Mr.
speaking.
Kelly.
Yeah.
My other order, since you're not going to answer me, I don't know why you guys don't like this man. The guy's a great person over there. It's funny when Mr. Brooks
Kelly,
needs
go
him.
on to something else, Mr. Kelly. What's your next item?
My other thing was, again, I'm going to ask the mayor, the conversations about this public safety director. There's records that show that there's communication between the mayor and the administration about a public safety director, and I wanted to know if that's something that we're moving forward for the budget coming in 2021. Mr. Mayor?
Council President, I'll address that in my reports again.
Okay.
Well, could you address it now, Mr. Puzio? And then the last thing was, I did have something on the Bobbyville, and Mr. Whittick had addressed that. But what Mr. Whittick didn't include, I guess there was minutes from October of 2016. There's actually billing that has taken place earlier that year. It's almost 5 years since Mr. Yachafano's been billing the taxpayers for the Bobbyville, and we haven't gone anywhere with this yet. And I don't understand if back in 2016, if Mr. Yachafano's minutes reflect correctly, we only had to get an appraisal and we were moving forward. And then in 2019, we had this ridiculous page opinion of how to proceed to go forward. I mean, how much longer do we have to go to try to collect the $650,000 out of the $1 million that's owed, where Mr. Quinn is somebody sitting there on that pipeline benefiting from that without paying? How much longer do we got to do this?
Does anybody else have any old business? Okay, next we have new business. Again, 5-minute time limit. Does anybody have any new business?
I have new business if everybody else doesn't have
Go ahead,
anything.
Mr. Kelly.
Couple of things. I'll do it real quick. The gazebo's been closed down with the gate in front of it. Is there any way that since this is closed down, maybe we can do some work on that to make it ADA compliant so that those that are impaired or handicapped can actually have access to the top of the gazebo? I kind of addressed this a couple of times, and this would probably be the perfect time to do that where it wouldn't impede of anybody using it at the moment. Another thing is the sanitary wipes that we received just recently, Mr. Mayor. I think we received 5,000 some wipes that we have. If that's correct, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Continue your statement.
I'm just asking if just so I'm correct, we received 5,000 of them?
Thereabouts, I would assume. I didn't
Well,
count
it's in the
them.
Facebook post, I think, of 5,000. Is there a way that maybe we can disperse some of them to some of the pantries and churches and those who provide services for those in need?
Being worked on by the administration to see who has a need for those wipes. Thank you.
Yeah, the churches would be great, and the temples and whatnot. They would help out dearly with them. And then the other thing is, you know, a resolution maybe that we can maybe write to the governor of the governing body supporting. Maybe we would include teachers to be frontliners as well, to be able to get the vaccine sooner than later, so that, you know, we can actually have an open learning in schools and the children and schools and faculty could be safe. There's something that maybe we can kind of come together as a council and draft something like that up and then pass that resolution moving forward. Just an idea going on with the schools. Anybody have any feedback on that?
I think that's a great idea. If you want to take a shot at starting something and we could all contribute to it, that'd be great.
And you know what? I think, you know, I know that Mr. Sackett had his resolution that he drafted solely, but I think collectively, all of us together, maybe we would have some input on that to put it with the attorney rather than one person. I think all of our personalities and passion that we have for our educators would be great moving forward. If nobody's interested in doing that, then I'll take the role, but I would like to have everybody's input on that so we can all agree together and have a component of each of ours in that moving forward. So I think, and the last thing is the police record position. Is that something that we're noticing currently now? We have a vacancy in the police. Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Seeger?
When something is noticed, it'll be dispersed through our general media.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I just don't want it to be just a selection of friends and relatives that would only get that information. And I think as far as Mr. Mayor, maybe you can help me with this. With the mega center that we have for the COVID at the mall in the Sears, the old Sears building, I was wondering, you know, you've said on a couple of occasions that we have a partnership with this, and all the stuff that I've been reading and some of the dignitaries of their responses and Gannon and the OEM, what role do we actually, what partnership do we have with the mega site moving forward? I don't know if our health officials in township are volunteers there or they work there throughout the day. What role do we have as Rockaway with this partnership that you've mentioned before?
Answer that in my reports. Thank you.
Could you answer that to me now, though, so in case I could, I can't respond to your report because you won't let me communicate with you. I mean, are we a component of that? I mean, are we administering the vaccine? Or are we something with the property? I mean, what's the role, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor? Mr. Yachafano?
Yes, Mr. Kelly?
Are you aware of like a partnership that we have with this mega site with the Rockaway Mall?
Mr. Kelly, my understanding of this agenda item is that it's directed towards any member of the council stating new business. It's not directed towards a cross-examination or questioning.
I'm not cross-examining. I'm just asking a question. I would like to know if we have a partnership and I have constituents asking me, what is the role of Rockaway Township? Or can I call Rockaway Township? I'd like to be able to provide them with an answer. So not everybody calls you, Mr. Yatrafano, or the mayor, or Mr. Jackson. I have residents that come to me and ask me, what is the role? What is our role? What are we doing with there? And I figured if there was a partnership, the town attorney would definitely be involved in making sure and crossing the T's and dotting the I's of what this agreement is, of what we do or don't do. Could you tell me what we do as far as the partnership?
Mr. Kelly, I gave you my response.
You don't have an answer then.
I gave you my response, Mr. Kelly. Please move on.
There was no, you don't tell me to move on. You're not controlling the meeting. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Kelly?
No, I have some other stuff I'll address in my my report.
Okay. Anybody else with new business?
Yeah, Council President?
Yep.
The quick question to the administrations regarding our recycling centers. I was asked this by a resident and I really didn't know the answer. Just the Saturday hours where the McVeigh station is open till 3 p.m. and the municipal garage is open till 1 does cause a little bit of inconvenience to the folks up in 6. I was just curious, is there a valid reason why one is closed 2 hours earlier?
It's Adam Salberg. It's not me asking the question.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to take that offline and get back to us on it, if you're talking.
Check with Pat.
Yeah.
Adam, I will ask. I actually asked that once and I forgot what Al told me, but I will ask again and
Appreciate it. Figured I couldn't be the first one to ask.
no, you weren't. Thanks.
Anybody else? The only other thing is
Business.
discussion.
Joe?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have new business.
Go ahead.
Do we have any, I know we're talking about some, we keep talking about Bowlbyville. I'm just wondering the status on some outstanding lawsuits we have going on. Do you have any updates?
Yatrafano, can you make updates on any outstanding lawsuits against the township? Or
Yeah, you should get some inventory, litigation inventory. The Will Guzman one. Why don't we talk about that one?
Am I recognized, Council President?
You are.
Okay. Mr. Kelly's appeal of his loss along with Mr. Schmidt before Judge Minkowitz is still pending before the appellate division. The matter has concluded the brief and response stage and is waiting disposition. Mr. Kelly's lawsuit against Mr. Jackson and the township remains pending. I believe a motion to dismiss date has been set in that matter, but other than that, there's nothing immediately pending. Mr. Kelly's Oprah litigation against Ms. Clipperton and the township. Final briefs were filed on behalf of the defendants last Friday. A response is due in about a week from Mr. Kelly and his attorney. Thereafter, that matter has a return date in February. Those are the 3 Mr. Kelly lawsuits. So the road of Mr. Kelly's litigation is complete. As far as other litigation, I have nothing to report in terms of progress or schedule at this time.
Can you tell us the other?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other ones that are,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Yatrafano?
You're not recognized.
That was my new business.
Well, you didn't ask that. You asked a question, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Sackett.
You're not running the
All
meeting,
litigation.
Mr.
You didn't say
Kelly.
Mr. Kelly's
You're
litigation.
out of order, Mr. Kelly. Again, you're out of order. The only other thing in new business was I sent an email earlier today about our budget meetings. Everybody should have gotten it. Please get back to me if you have any questions. All the meetings will be virtual like our meetings currently are. Next is reports. Again, we'll have 5-minute time limits. I'm going to start at the top of my screen. Mr. Salberg.
Again, thank you. Yeah, just want to thank you for the committees that I was appointed to. Very excited about contributing in 2021. And I, again, look forward to working with my fellow council people and, of course, the members of these committees. Also, we're about 3.5 weeks past New Year's. A lot of folks are looking at that as a super spreader event. We know that COVID is increasing across the board. There was a slight decrease in hospitalizations, which is promising. But again, just reminding everyone, we're far from out of the woods here. Please be safe, social distance, keep clean. And again, let's get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn.
Yes, thank you, Joe. The farmers market over at the mall, it is a great success. It's been cold, but everybody that goes there is leaving with packages, and it's going to be great when the weather does break and we're able to get vegetables and everything else. It's a good location. The vendors are very happy with it, and I look forward to the next one. Also, I attended our rec meeting, and we're now at the stage where we're going to have a full complement for the committee with all new people, new ideas, and it's working out very good. I'm very happy that this week our bids are due back for the tennis courts, pickleball courts, and basketball courts, so that we can get, hopefully administration can get back to us on it, and we can get it on the February 9th meeting to discuss and hopefully pass a resolution for those courts to start getting the money that we need to get going. And I'm very happy to report hockey is doing well. I enjoy watching it. Doug and his crew videotape it, and I love the announcing that is being done and the nice words of wisdom that he gives the kids. He does a great job. Other than that, we're all good. Stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Thanks. Mr. Brooks.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Jack. I appreciate the fact that people like my brother in my commentary during the games. It's all about the kids. That's all it ever is about. And learning teamwork and owning up to when you make a mistake, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. So thank you, Jack, for that. In terms of everything else, right now, I just want everybody to stay safe. Like Adam said, it is a few weeks after the new year. And just be aware about everyone around you. Make sure you keep on wearing your masks when required. And other than that, looking forward to the springtime coming up soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kritz.
Hi, I had the opportunity last week to meet virtually with the third grade class at KDM as they are learning about local government. It's the second year I was invited to do that. Questions, so I was appreciative of them. I want to thank Liz for taking over while Christy was out on leave. She's done a very good job under very difficult circumstances. One day I'll meet you in person, shake your hand, and thank you. And I just want to kind of touch on Mr. Sackett's resolution, and I think it was a good resolution. And I don't think that by recognizing that we are denigrating or softening anything else that's going on in this country. I understand, the feeling of inclusiveness, but by recognizing, an unprecedented attack on our government directly and condemning that, I don't think that we're saying that everything else is okay. I wish it would have gone through. I would have voted yes. Certainly open to looking at it again next meeting, but I think that we're taking something that was good intentioned and turning it around, and I don't necessarily agree with that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kritz. Miss Noon.
Yes, I would also like to thank Elizabeth. She's doing a wonderful job.
And I would just like to also went to the farmer's market. Everything I've gotten there has been spectacular. But you do have to get there before Mr. Freelander because he buys everything. Otherwise, stay safe and warm, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly. You're muted.
I, like Mr. Kritz, was invited for the third grade KDM. We talked about local, county, state, and federal government. The kids are running for election in their own class in the third grade, and what their roles were going to do and what they were going to try to accomplish as a president or vice president. And I got to tell you, the third graders were definitely asking some pretty good questions. I don't know if Mr. Kritz had the same result, but they were really attuned to monies and laws, the creation of laws, enforcing them, and every branch of government that was there. Interesting enough, though, one student had asked me when we were going to put the dog park in over at Snake Hill Road, from where the old playground was. And I just told him that we were still looking into areas, and I hope that we can continue to move forward with that potential idea. I also want to make a mention, Stephen DeSilvia. Did I say that right, Mr. Jackson? He's a fireman over at Company One. Steve he's a Telemark Hibernia resident that just recently moved to Pennsylvania, and he had donated or dedicated 15 years of service to the Company One. He was an engine mechanic that took care of the engines and pumpers that were there. His profession is an airplane mechanic, and he's a phenomenal fabricator, a mechanic, does great maintenance over there. Mr. Powers does the same too with him, but unfortunately he is moved out of the area, and I just wanted to recognize his 15 years of great service to Company One. Snow removal this morning with the ice and a little bit of snow that was there. Mr. North and his crew, as well as the county, they do a phenomenal job. I also wanted to give a little bit of update with the water and stormwater sewer repair that's taking place by Dudak and Green Pond Road. The county is almost wrapped up with that. They're on their last stage of it, and just because of impeding weather, it kind of put a little bit of a halt, but I anticipate in the next couple of days or by next week, they should be completed on that. One thing that I wanted to mention, this has been going on for quite some time, and I know that the gentleman, Mr. Crane, who used to be the owner of Telemark Auto, who has recently retired of January of last year, but back in 18, he had an impound vehicle that ended up being abandoned and going through the process with the township with auctions. He was a winner due to no bid. There were some green sheets that were lost that was enabled the town to get a title to give him so we can do something with the vehicle. That was submitted on 3 different occasions. April of 18, again in July of 2020 or 19 and 2020. He did come to the council. The mayor said that he would address it. Instead of getting a duplicate, they re-advertised and had another auction, which nobody bid on again, and he was a no bidder. But he had made a couple of phone calls to Mr. Dyer, and it took 10 days for Mr. Dyer to get back to him. And then the information that Mr. Dyer had given him really didn't coincide with the information that was received from the Motor Vehicle Commission. And on Mr. Crane's behalf, I actually called Motor Vehicle, and with 7 minutes, I had somebody on the phone. Motor Vehicle Commission says they're not working remotely. They are there because they don't have access from their computers remotely to service the public, and that they were going to send out that green sheet immediately addressed to Lieutenant Tom, which was just recently received. Brenda Bushnell is the contact person in the state and salvage to send that documentation back down to the state in order to get a title to give it to Mr. Crane. So I just want to confirm that we're moving forward to get this thing that's been 3 years of a title for an individual that has donated over 20 years to planning board, almost 50 years in the fire department. He's been very patient, and he's very upset with the length of time and the lack of response from the mayor's administration. So, Mr. Dyer, are we moving forward with that by chance for Mr. Crane?
Councilman
Dyer?
I'll answer that in my reports. Thank you.
Mr. Yachafano, are you aware of those issues that we are moving forward for Mr. Crane dealing with titles? Counsel? Mr. Yachafano, you are legal counsel for the entire council, not just for who you select to.
Gee, thanks, Mr. Kelly. I never knew that.
So you acknowledge that then?
I acknowledge what, Mr. Kelly?
That you represent the council, not just who you feel.
Represents the township.
Mr. Kelly, I'm not here to play word games with you.
Okay, are you
What
aware
is your
of
question?
the title situation? Are you aware that we're moving forward with the title for Mr. Crane?
I think Mr. Perone might know something about that.
Mr. Perone, can you answer that, please?
I haven't heard about it in a long time, Mr. Kelly. The last I remember, and vaguely, because bringing it up now, it's difficult for me to remember. I do know that I spoke to Ms. Clipperton about it. I do know that there was no bid on it, and from what I understand, if there is no bid, then whoever has the lien on the property for whatever storage or money that's owed would then be given the property, and they have to get a document from motor vehicles. Police usually do it, and I thought it was taken care of. I haven't heard of it in a long time, and I'm surprised that it hasn't been taken care of, frankly.
Yeah, Mr. Perone, the process, and I've done it before on several occasions. The town gets a green sheet. They put that up for bid. Whoever the winning bidder is, that green sheet then gets filled out. If it's going to get junked and the green sheet is sufficient to junk the vehicle, if it's going to be registered or used and titled again, it would have to go back down to the state, titled into the township's name, and then endorsed over to that new owner or winning bidder. The problem occurred is sending the green sheet down to the state and then receiving it. Originally, it was supposed to be sent down there. It turned out it was still in the desk of the retired Robert Sheard. The clerk did it, and did the process again. Somehow it got misplaced. They did a second auction, which could have potentially have made Mr. Crane lose that vehicle if somebody did bid higher than he had or no bid. And then when I spoke to Motor Vehicle, they were unaware of any member of the township trying to communicate down there to find this green sheet, which was never expired, but they resubmitted another one, and then I believe Lieutenant Tom just received it. So my concern is, and maybe the clerk can help out, the clerk's office has got to start, the administration's got to send it back down to the state to get an actual title. So out of a green sheet into a title into the hand of the new owner. Are we at that level now?
I have no idea.
Mrs.
I just told you I thought it was taken care of. The other what you said though about the new bid in the auction, the minimum bid is whatever the lien. The minimum bid is whatever the lien is on the property. So whoever it is that has their money invested in storage or in picking up the vehicle and taking it to wherever, they get their money from whatever it is that they expended in terms of their input. But independent of that, it was my understanding that the car was worth a lot less than what the lien was. So nobody's going to allow. I shouldn't say nobody, but nobody did bid on it. So that's the proof in the pudding.
No, and
I don't know why, Mr. Kelly. I have no idea why. Whatever problems occurred with the state regarding this documentation took place. I have no idea. It's not something that I would normally handle. It's something the clerk and the police handle independent of my office.
Well, the police have always received the information. Mr. Dyer was the one that was addressing it, from what I understand, in the last several weeks. Again, for Mr. Crane to reach out to Mr. Dyer and not get a phone call for 10 days, but yet another person waiting on a title calls Mr. Dyer and gets information that day. It's a little troubling, and I'm trying to explain that to a constituent in there that's a recipient of this information and material. I'd like to know what's going on, and I could reassure him tomorrow that, we know the police department has received the information. We know the police department has submitted it upstairs. I'd like to know where it is right now so I can inform Mr. Crane of the same. Mr. Dyer, do we have that?
I have no further information for you, Mr. Kelly.
Mrs. Peterson, do we have that information?
Mr. Crane can call us direct. Have him do that.
Mrs. Peterson's the clerk to the council. I'm asking our clerk if she's received that information. I don't need to remind the clerk under 4040A in our own code 265. She is the clerk to the council.
Please don't bully the clerk, okay?
I spoke to Mr. Crane on Friday, this past Friday afternoon, after I had received the green sheet back from the Department of Motor Vehicles. It had been submitted in November, right when the auction was completed, and they sent it back to us. I received it. That's at the end of last week, and there was a number that was incorrect on it. So DMV circled that section on the green sheet. I mailed it back immediately to the contact at DMV that the police officer had obtained. So they did explain to me that the DMV representative, when I got on the phone with them, my initial calls to them said that first I couldn't even stay in a hold queue because they were so busy. And then I called back several times after telling the Cranes that that they were difficult to reach, but that I would try. I tried back, got through to a DMV representative, and they told me that they were working on paperwork that had been submitted in October, and that it would take them probably through February. They were working overtime, but that they were just extremely backlogged and to please remain patient with them. That's the latest status. The DMV does have the paperwork at this point.
Great. You know, when I called 609-292-6500, it was 7 minutes on hold till I got somebody. I got off. They called me back in 32 minutes.
Yeah.
I called back again in 6 minutes. I got somebody else on the line.
Yep.
Directly with that, with an extension.
Yep.
It was very simple.
I called them one time, and like I said, they put me in a hold queue, and it actually said, don't even bother to stay on hold. So if you try back, you know, again, I was persistent and I did get through to them.
Okay, great.
I also had to fit that in among other things that I was doing in the office, but I did remain persistent and I did get through to them. But not every time when you call the DMV do they pick up in 7 minutes. You were actually very fortunate.
No, well, I mean, it was on a couple of occasions. I wasn't lucky to one time. But the error that was on that, and then I'll leave it at this, was that something that Mr. Crane filled out or our administration filled out that was an error?
I put the wrong business codes. I put the wrong number.
So 3 years, this man is still waiting on it. And again, another error of this green sheet to go back down to the state. No, I don't. Thank you. That's. I don't have any other report. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Friedlander.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'll be brief. Make up for the lost time we just had. All the committees are pretty quiet, except the library is moving in the right direction. They were contacted by the mall this past week. Mall's interested in setting up like a library display via kiosk or storefront. So they're in discussion with the mall on that. They were pretty excited about it. They just finished the bid process for the children's room. So that they're gonna finish and contact the right people to get it the project going, along with the flooring. So hopefully in the springtime, everybody will be able to get into the library and see a brand new children's room. Pretty good.
Nice.
Also, because I know tonight they kept on bringing up the sewer assessment committee. Everybody's aware that it was put on a back burner with the death of Mark. But it looks like, talking to Mr. Waters, that I think Chris, the clerk, will be back in February, if that's correct, Elizabeth? Right, she's the lead person with coordinating that with the new people that are going to step up the information. So that's it as far as the sewer assessment. And I just want to say Hey, I did leave something at the farmer's market for people. They did, but we ran out of sour pickles. On another note, people, stay safe, follow the rules. It works. I got my first shot today, so I'm looking forward to the next one in 3 weeks, and hopefully things will get better in the springtime for everybody. And that's my report.
Thank you. Vice
Thank you.
President Sackett.
Thank you, Council President. I picked up my budget book over on Friday. I went through it in detail, and I'm looking forward to the meetings in February to go over that and present an excellent budget to the town, to the people. I think the mayor's office has done a great job with the budget, and so that was that. Also, I'm looking forward to. I agree with Councilman Kelly about the teachers, but I think I'd like to see him try to put the resolution together and send it over to the town attorney, and we can go from there. I think if we all start giving our ideas, it'll take months to do, and I'd rather just get it done pretty quickly. Just like I helped get the resolution done quickly. I didn't wait on it. When I see something I want to do, I act on it. Like Councilman Kelly's been talking about, I don't know, for 2 or 3 years now, a dog park, and hasn't done anything. I've already been out with the mayor.
I've done a lot, Mr. Sackett.
Please don't interrupt him, Mr. Kelly. You're out of order.
Correcting him, not interrupting.
I have a dog park.
No time for corrections.
Councilman Kelly ready to go. You've been talking about one for about 3 years now, so I'll probably have mine ready to go before you. So I put the work in. You talk a lot. You have stuff.
You couldn't catch up to me if I stopped, Mr. Sackett.
Mr. Kelly, please stop interrupting. You're out of order again.
And let's go. Instead of waiting to the meetings to have the
If you
meeting.
stop now, you wouldn't catch up.
Please stop, Mr. Kelly. You're out of order again.
You have plenty of time to do your work. You wait to the meeting to go on and on. You always try to bring up, this is political. This is not political. We're here for the town. Start doing your job as a councilman for the town.
Been doing it, bud.
Thank you.
Please stop interrupting. You're out of order again. Thank you, Mr. Sackett. I'll be brief. I mentioned about the budget hearings earlier. I did attend the farmer's market this weekend. Manny, I took your advice and bought some soup from that soup guy. Still waiting to eat it. Did get some, we hit the pickle guy again, but got some sour tomatoes. So it is really good. And I'll tell you, to see them out there in the cold, you know, I'm only out there shopping for 10 minutes and they're there all morning. So it's really good. And like Councilman Quinn said, I'm looking forward to that happening in the spring when the weather's nicer and they'll have some fresh vegetables and things like that. So well done by the mayor helping coordinate that from happening. And with that said, I'll turn over to Mayor for your report.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to try to address, Mr. Kelly asked a few questions, and I'll try to address the ones that are pertinent to his role as a council person, and I'll try to expand on a few things. He asked a question about what our role is at the mega center. Obviously, it's in our town, so we're happy to host it here. We're happy to have the infrastructure and to have the resources to do that. Keep in mind, our health department, Rockaway Township, has shared service agreements with 5 towns. Our health officer, our director, Peter Tabbitt, has been in contact with the county and the state throughout this process. Right now, we're at a point where obviously supply is an issue throughout the country, and we're trying to disseminate information on a daily basis. Atlantic Health runs the actual process in a sense where they're doing the vaccinations, they have staff on hand, they're managing the actual process of it. And where we have the federal government there, we have the military there, and we have the sheriff's office there, adding security to some extent. But it is a state site. But like I said, our town we cover 5 different towns. So we're responsible for getting information. The flow of information comes through Rockaway Township. We try to get it out to the folks in town. If you would pay attention to our COVID site, we try to give updates. So it's a dynamic process and ongoing. is our health director, our nurses up there right now giving vaccinations? I couldn't tell you, but I know that at one point they offered their services, and they very may well be working with Atlantic Health, putting their nursing degrees to work. So that's our involvement with the Mega Center. And like I said, we're happy to host that and to try to keep people well. In terms of Mr. Kelly asked about a police director. Once again, that's an administrative function. No, it's not in this year's budget. You have your budget books. You can look through it. It's my job as mayor. Since I got into this role, I have tried to evaluate positions, all positions. Nothing is ever off the table with me. I look at positions, who's going to be put where we can have where we can save dollars. I try to match people's skill sets to certain positions. It's not just a matter of posting for a position, hiring somebody. I try to go a little deeper. And if I feel a person has a knack for a particular function, if they like maybe data input as opposed to a variety of, multitasking, I try to match individuals with, their assignments. Once again, that does fall under the administrative duties. It doesn't fall under the council. When something is ripe for the council, I bring it to the council as a whole, and the council is informed in terms of, what their role would be, or what, information they needs to happen. I want to reach out. I want to thank everybody for reaching out to Doug and his wife Doug Abe and his wife during this difficult time. She has some challenges ahead. And I know there's been a meal train started and a few other things. Doug has donated so much time to this community, him and his family, over the years. He's been a fixture in town. He has donated a lot of time to the council meetings, to a multitude of things in town. So I wanted to thank everybody out there who has reached out to Doug and is trying to do their part if they're able to. With respect to the wipes that we received, whether 5,000 thereabouts, I'm not going to give you an exact number. It was a lot. It was a pallet. They were originally for our first responders. So I want to make sure that our first responders and employees have them first, and that we're covered in terms of getting them out to them, keeping our police cars clean, keeping our DPW clean. I've reached out to other folks in the community to see if they need them, if there's a need, if there's a financial need for those. So that is taking place. I also want to address a question that was asked of me last council meeting. This was from the computer hacking incident that happened a few years ago.
Mr. Brennan?
Mr. Kelly, please don't interrupt. You're out of order.
Okay. During the public portion of the January 5th council meeting, there were questions asked pertaining to the computer hacking incident that happened a couple of years ago. First, as to how the computer attack happened, we've been informed that the incident remains under investigation, and we must abide by prior instructions not to comment. Second, as to the cost incurred by the township, most of the cost was covered from the attack was covered by insurance. Third, there was the main question was asked about what we've done to prevent a subsequent incident. The answer is that we engaged outside contractors to review our hardware and software, and with the guidance from experienced and qualified consultants, we made appropriate upgrades. It should be obvious that we can't discuss any system upgrades for security reasons. I want to point out to anyone who remains concerned about this old issue that today no system is completely secure, as we all have learned from the recent computer attacks attributable to Russia, which, according to reports, invaded many high security government computer systems. But I want to rest assured that we did our due diligence to look at our system, to make those upgrades, and to add further security to them. I want to make a mention to the resolution that Council Vice President Sackett put out. It's an excellent resolution. And I also want to say what Mr. Kelly had said, that it's a great idea to go further, that we should denounce violence across all platforms. I recognize that there's value in what both these gentlemen had said tonight, and that they both of those statements add value. Violence in any form is not good. We know that as people. We know that's a basic tenet of who we are as human beings. But one thing I know is that we can pass resolutions which are meaningful and bring awareness to situations. One thing I've learned over the years is you can't legislate love. That comes from people from education, from people working together and working as partners, and like we do on the council, to get things done. We have disagreements, but at the end of the day, most of us are here for the town. You guys have your budget books, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm looking forward to working with you, on the budget process. I have to take my hat off to Lisa Palmieri, the department heads, Pat Seeger, myself. I put in quite a bit of time sitting with Pat, going over our needs and wants, and the department heads. This budget was crafted over the course of months. It didn't just happen overnight. So I sent an email to Mr. Jackson today asking him if he could, and he did, asking the council to please try and submit your questions prior. Anything that's complex, so we can go. I don't know everything. Ms. Seeger doesn't know everything. Each department head doesn't know everything about another person's department. So sometimes during these meetings, if there's complex questions, we can't answer them on the spot. We may have to go back to a department head and find out. I rely on the department heads. They're the experts in the area. I'm not an engineer, so I rely on Allison Ferrante, our engineer, to give those technical answers. And I trust in what she asks for, that she needs. So if you can, and same thing holds true with all the council meetings, if you have questions, please try to ask us prior. It's not a good idea. You're not going to get a very thoughtful response if it's a surprise at a council meeting. Most of the time I'll have to tell you, we have to look it up. There's numbers attached to it. And I do realize that things come up from one question goes into another question. I do realize that, and we do our best to answer those questions. That's all I have for tonight. I want to thank everybody. I'm very, very excited. We're going to be getting our bid packages back this week for Peterson, for the basketball courts and the tennis courts. I know that the majority of this council supports those projects. We'll get the numbers, and eventually, sooner than later, we'll be going over those, and I'm hoping that I get council support for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Yachafano.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to report?
No report.
Okay. Ms. Seeger.
I have no report, Joe, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody on the budget.
Any members of the administration wish this, Ms. Ferrante, Mr. Dyer, Mr. Mary, anybody have anything to say? You can feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, Mr. President, Allison Ferrante.
Yep. Do you have anything? Any updates?
Yes. One, I'd like to address the member of the public who mentioned the Morris Commons development. I believe that was Mr. Degman, I believe.
Yes.
And in regards to the blasting, we have been investigating it and looking into it, and we actually made a call to the state inspector, who was able to pull the reports and review that there had not been any exceedances of the state standards in regards to the blasting. They do have perimeter monitors on in accordance with the state regs. It is monitored and overseen by the Department of Labor. And to my understanding, it was that they every day they set up the blast and it goes off around 12:31, 1:30. I was not aware of earlier or multiple blasts. However, we will look into that.
Okay.
And then also I want to report that we applied for and received a grant from the Highlands Council for a township-wide watershed management plan. And this will look at and evaluate the water quality of surface water bodies throughout the township. And the grant was in the amount of $175,000.
Nice.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Good one.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else have anything?
No report, Council President. Dave Dyer.
Ms. Palmieri, do you have anything? You good?
No report, thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
seconded by Mr. Brooks. All in favor, raise your hands. Aye. All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thanks, Liz. You can stop the recording. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
You too, people. Take care and stay safe.